Hello and welcome to the Angus Report, a news program geared toward cattle producers. I'm Bob Cervera.
And I'm Paige Wallace. From American Angus Association headquarters in St. Joseph, Missouri, we bring you the week's top headlines, including a newly introduced mandate to regulate practices on the farm.
We discuss marketing your Angus sired cattle through video sales.
And we bring you continued coverage of EPA feedlot surveillance. This is the Angus Report.
Our top story for the week. Nebraska Senator Mike Johanns has introduced an amendment to the Farm Bill that would eliminate the use of flyover surveillance by the EPA. The amendment follows on the heels of a letter from Midwestern congressmen questioning the EPA surveillance flights over feedlots in Nebraska and Iowa. The amendment states the EPA administrator shall not conduct aerial surveillance to inspect or record images of ag operations. The agency, however, defends the use of aerial photos, saying the means are necessary to monitor clean air and water standards. The EPA reports it has conducted 7 flights in Iowa, beginning in 2010, and 9 in Nebraska beginning last year. The agency says it alerts state environmental agencies before it takes to the air, but does not notify livestock owners.
The recently released U.S. Drought Monitor indicates what many farmers and ranchers already knew. Drought conditions are worsening in many parts of the country. Following an unusually dry spring, much of the Corn Belt remains hot and dry after near record May temperatures averaged 5 to 6 degrees above normal.
We're obviously seeing stress due to the lack of water. Root systems in corn are not developing properly. The soybean emergence is uneven. That's always a sign of water stress. And so the impacts are already being seen. It's very unusual to see over a 5-week period from May into the first part of June where less than an inch of precipitation has fallen across parts of the state. In fact, there are some locations that have seen less than a ½ inch of rain. It's imperative that we do see a significant pattern change impacting the central part of the country, or these impacts are only going to get worse.
While pockets of the country have experienced recent rainfall, parts of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio have reported between 25 and 60% of normal moisture in the past 60 days.
Given those dry conditions, haying season is well underway. Production is ahead of schedule in many alfalfa-producing states like Nebraska.
This year, the cutting was probably 2 to 3 weeks at least earlier than our average, and I'm using, say, the case of first cutting alfalfa. And in the case of the grass hay, the meadow grass hay, a fair amount of that has been cut already, and normally, oftentimes, the meadow grass hay isn't cut until about the 1st of July. Yields on a lot of the grass hay are definitely going to be down because of the dry conditions, and dryland alfalfa for that matter too. I mean, first cutting, was probably fair or average, but getting much a second cutting on a lot of dryland alfalfa is going to be very difficult. Hay is, I think, like I said, will be quite valuable. Those prices will remain high this year. There's probably no doubt about that.
A California senator has introduced an amendment to the Farm Bill that would mandate on-farm practices in agriculture production. The Egg Inspection Act agreement is the result of coordination between the Humane Society of the United States and the United Egg Producers. It creates federal legislation that would mandate group housing for laying hens. Now, while the amendment would apply only to the egg industry, many producer organizations, including cattlemen's groups, have spoken out against the mandate, saying the legislation would create a slippery slope of overregulation in animal agriculture.
The National Cattlemen's Beef Association hosted its annual Young Cattlemen's Conference May 31st to June 7th. The leadership event took more than 60 young cattlemen and industry representatives ages 25 to 50 on a tour of the beef industry to learn about every sector of beef production.
We started in Denver, Colorado, and as a group we met there at the NCBA headquarters. We learned a lot about NCBA and the things that they do. After that, we then went on to Chicago, where we stopped at the Chicago Board of Trade, learned about how that operates and how things go on there. Then we went to OSI, which is a meat grinding facility where they make hamburger patties. Very educational in the processes and food safety issues and some of the challenges that they face. And then we've made our way on to Washington, D.C., where now we are learning the political side of our industry. As an industry, we all have different issues. But as an industry, in order to get our individual issues worked out, we have to work together.
The Angus Foundation sponsored Whittison's YCC participation. According to NCBA, more than 1,000 people have graduated from the YCC program since its inception in 1980.
The Angus Foundation's annual golf tournament takes place next month during the National Junior Angus Show in Louisville, Kentucky. The fundraising event provides fun and recreation for Angus producers while supporting the nonprofit organization's education, youth, and research initiatives. Interested participants must sign up before July 1st by visiting angusfoundation.org.
When the Angus Report returns, we'll discuss how some producers are using video sales to earn premiums from their Angus sired calves.
But first, a restaurant that beefs up its menu with quality.
Visit angus.org to continue watching this episode of the Angus Report.